Welcome to this fun, loose watercolour painting of roses. Use lots of fun techniques to create some yummy textures. If you like this video and you'd like to see more like it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel where you will get updates of my latest tutorials. If you'd like to have a full list of all the materials I'm using with colour alternatives, check out the description below and please ask any questions. You will also find a link for the photograph. So, shall we get started? So I've wet the background and I'm just using a little bit of opera rose. You could use permanent rose, and I'm just tickling this on this left top rose here, wet into wet. I'm also using a little bit of permanent yellow, but you could use cadmium yellow. I'm using my size 6 brush and I'm just dropping these different sort of colours, quite watery paint, wet in wet. I'm actually now starting to paint the larger rose in the centre with my size 10 brush using the permanent yellow and the opera rose. Just sort of really kind of working wet in wet, dropping water in, trying to really create all these lovely soft light shades. I'm using my twig now and I've actually dipped it into the Alizarin crimson paint, and I'm just sort of using this creamy paint and just sort of drawing it on the edge of this rose. This is such a fun way of painting. It's a very loose style of painting and you can be very creative. You don't have to copy that photograph. I'm just trying to interpret it. What I loved about this photograph is you've got various sort of roses in its life forms, so from bud until it's almost decaying and dying. So I'm using a watercolor pencil here as well. I'm drawing it onto the damp paper. So I'm using lots of my techniques: salt, the card, the twig, the spattering. I'm going to be using some Brusho as well. So it's such good fun to paint this, and it's almost like you could imagine yourself sketching as well. It's very, very loose. I have got an outline drawing, and this outline drawing will be available on my Patreon membership. And I'll also include an in-depth discussion about colour mixing and trying to find the right colours for this particular painting. So I hope my Patreons enjoy that, and that should be available tomorrow on the membership. So I'm using Quinacridone gold here, a little bit of yellow, touch of blue, and just painting in these buds and some of the small leaves, and actually some of the buds that are just literally a tiny bud to a bud that's opening up into a rose or just before then. So it's quite nice. I'm using some Pyrrole red and some of the pink as well, and there we are, little spatter as well. So the spatter keeps you really loose, and this is experimenting not just with learning or just painting roses, but also just using different techniques to sort of explain them and describe them. My twig's getting a real workout today. I'm actually using it, some very dark indigo paint here, quite creamy, and actually sort of drawing into this very watery, light green, blue-green. That's a mixture of ultramarine with a tiny pinch of yellow, just to create the texture and detail of this rose leaf. I'm painting the stems with a mixture of the permanent yellow with a touch of cerulean, or you could use Prussian blue, and then dropping in a little bit of a darker green with a bit of indigo mixed with those two colours. I'm just giving a little tap of my Brusho, and if you've not heard of Brusho, I will put a link in the description below where I've actually made a video all about Brusho. So I've painted a little bit more detail now on the roses, and what I'm doing while the paint is still damp, I'm just spritzing with my spritzer bottle, and I'm almost creating a background with the rose colours. It's quite a nice way of creating an abstract background by actually spritzing your positive shapes, i.e. the roses. So I'm just painting this rose here on the right hand side a similar way to I did on the ones on the left, using the pink, a touch of the yellow, and a little bit of alizarin crimson where there's a darker shade as well. I'm using my size 10 brush, working wet on dry, and then softening and blending with a clean sort of damp brush every now and again, as I'm doing here, just to kind of blend away any hard edges. Just finishing off some of the shading on that top left rose, and I'm just tapping in a little bit of rose red Brusho on top. So everything's pretty much dried. Some of the Brusho hasn't been activated by the water, so I'm using my brush now here and there. It's a clean brush with some water on there, and I'm just sort of wetting the background here and there. Some of that rose is a little bit wet there, so it's picked up some of the pink. That's absolutely fine, because I'm creating this sort of atmospheric background, which is fun to do. I'm using my large flat 1.5 inch soft brush, and just trying to get in all the nooks and crannies there. And I'm using some black Brusho at the bottom there of the painting, just to kind of give a little bit of texture and dark. And I'm spattering in the center as well with a little bit of opera rose, and I'm sprinkling a little bit of sea salt to finish off. I'm going to let that dry naturally. So the painting has dried. You can see the salts create some quite nice textures, very light but interesting textures in the middle there. I'm just removing this washi tape. I'm really pleased with this tape. It stopped any leakages, and it doesn't appear to tear my Saunders Waterford watercolor paper. So this is the finished sort of sketch loose watercolor painting. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and it inspires you maybe to try out different techniques and paint roses or other flowers in a really loose style. If you have any questions about this tutorial, please put them in the comments section below. If you'd like to watch longer, more in-depth tutorials, why not check out my Patreon membership? It's ad-free and you can cancel anytime. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. Happy painting. Bye for now.